Hey, what's up, Legion? My name is Sal, and this is another Expedition Log. Dark greetings and gruesome devoirs to all of you. I hope you're all out there having a wicked Halloween this year, and that none of you found anything weird like razors or drugs in your trick-or-treat candy. I'd like to thank my patrons and elite explorers for supporting me directly on Patreon, and for all of the super chats you all give me. That support means the world to me, and it powers the ExLog, so thanks again. At the end of this episode, if you're into the content, please consider subscribing and following me on my social media and joining my Discord server, home of DMod. Links for everything are down below. In this episode, we'll be visiting a mall in its last 3 days open to the public before shuttering and sitting abandoned awaiting redevelopment. Even with just 72 hours left open, there was a certain puissance and moxie in the air. The ether was electric, and the locals flooded the concourse to stare this mall's death in the face with defiance in one last stand before closure. So tonight, I'd like you all to come take a walk with me and Jowdy through the Swansea Mall in Swansea, Massachusetts, to see what once was. But first, a word from our sponsors. Ensuing chaos at the WBZ newsroom and a spooky piece on donuts featuring Fred the Baker and Hervé Viechez. Enjoy.
So we can join the party right now with our Eyewitness News Entertainment reporter, Joyce Cole-Haywick, who is live at the scene.
Who am I taking the cue from?
Oh, Joyce, you're taking it from me right now.
I can't hear you very well.
Okay.
It's very staticky. Can't hear a thing.
Good.
Because Boston police are on City Hall Plaza, and they are making an effort to make sure that people... Excuse me, madam.
Cheeseburgers, barbecued beef, chicken pie, crunchy peanut butter, and missiles. That was the wrong film.
Tonight, at this hour, Somerville firefighters near Union Square are battling a 3-alarm blaze.
That was Jonathan Levine. Jonathan Levine live with what could be a new clue in the Joan Webster case.
The search is off, but we'll have more on that later on the Pier 7. They're scouring the scene here at Pier 7, looking for the remains of
Dunkin' Donuts is proud to announce we've created a monster, introducing a haunting collection of minis for Halloween.
They're alive!
Minis are a fraction the size of our regular donuts, but they have the power to attract very interesting guests to your Halloween parties.
Welcome to the Swansea Mall on March 29, 2019, just 3 days before its closure. The history for this mall goes deep, so let's jump right into the historical narrative. Back in 1970, Charles Leibovitz merged his independent enterprises company with Arthur Cohen and Arthur Levian's Arlen Realty and Development Corp., forming the Arlen Shopping Center Group. Serving as president, Leibovitz would guide Arlen's mall division through the 1970s, with their first mall opening in 1971, which was the North Dartmouth Mall in Dartmouth, Massachusetts. Following the incredible success that the North Dartmouth Mall enjoyed in its first few years, Leibovitz turned his attention 20 miles northwest to Swansea. Vice President of Arlen, Charles Liebler, stated that the market area around Swansea was exceeding $100 million in sales for general merchandise at stores throughout the city, but that 25% of all the shopping dollars were spent elsewhere in surrounding areas. So there was $25 million of untapped potential spending, and they wanted to build a regional mall to capture that cash. By the first week of March 1974, Arlen had broken ground on their new mall, which was designed by architect Robert W. Kahn out of New York. The mall was scheduled for an opening in fall of 1975 and would cost an estimated $10 million to complete. There was 335,000 square feet of total space for the center, with room for 45 inline tenants and 2 senior anchors. Then in the summer of 1974, tension between non-union and union forces would pullulate on the construction site, and as September came, violence erupted. Initially, general contractor Seppala and Aho of New Ipswich, New Hampshire agreed to halt work to avoid any further incident. But as soon as the crane and forklifts began moving again, the union workers would protest and promise more violence. They said that non-union workers from out of state were stealing the work just so that they can save some money for lower wages, which was work being taken away from the union workers who felt entitled to it. Then one evening, countless cars began to line up along the Route 118 construction site, and later that night, all hell broke loose. It was reported in the Boston Globe that up to 2,000 men stormed the mall construction site, quote, hurling rocks and cinder blocks, smashing windows in every car and truck on the site, breaking hydraulic lines on the crane, crippling a forklift, turning over the office trailer, flipping and burning a car, and tearing down steel girders that were put up only 1 week before, close quote. Despite Swansea PD and 8 neighboring towns deploying 180 policemen and 5 guard dogs, along with the 15 private guards on the site, they couldn't stop these guys from destroying the construction site. Believe it or not, in all, the damages were only reported at about $12,000, but 5 police officers were injured and 1 guard was severely beaten. Of the attacking mob, 5 were injured, including 1 who suffered a gnarly dog bite to the crotch, 1 who somehow broke both of his legs, and a 3rd guy who got a bullet in the leg when an officer fired off a warning shot into the ground. There were no arrests made after the incident, and they launched an investigation. But a week later, work continued as planned, and it would go uninterrupted. About 1 year later, construction had mostly been completed, and the first senior anchor, an Edgar's department store, opened on August 20, 1975. Then 2 months later, the $10 million Swansea Mall had its formal ribbon cutting and grand opening dedication on October 14 when Sears opened as its second senior anchor, along with a 4-screen American multi-cinema. Local families packed the mall on a daily basis, and kids especially loved trying to climb all over the boulders and rocks in front of the Edgar's courtyard. But after just 4 years of operation, Arlen sold the Swansea Mall to Equity Properties and Development Co. in December of 1979 for an undisclosed amount. But if I had to guess, Arlen got very close to securing that fabled $25 million that they set out to capture when the mall was first built. Equity got to work immediately, and the mall received an expansion and 3rd anchor, bringing a Caldor in, with a soft opening on August 26, 1980, and with the official grand opening a few days later on September 4. The mall would receive an expansion in 1982, when an Apex department store opened as the 4th senior anchor. Equity was really putting the work in to make Swansea Mall a destination, and in 1989, they gave the mall a multi-million-dollar renovation, shuttering and redeveloping the cinema space, doing away with the dark wood storefronts and accents, removing the fountains and rock formations, and bringing in a lighter color scheme with neon lights throughout. During this complete aesthetic makeover, over 85,000 square feet were added to the floor plan, and a new logo was introduced that more clearly showed a swan floating on the sea. By this time, Edgar's had gone defunct, and a Jordan Marsh was brought in as the new senior anchor. Exterior treatments were updated with new entrances, and enhancements were made to the parking lot to finish the redevelopment project.
Do you have a brochure or something? I was thinking of coming back. Do you have like a brochure of prices for massage or? Oh, gotcha. Okay. I just wanted to take something with you. I'm not going to get one right now. Okay, sure. So, deep tissue, half an hour. Don't do it. Okay, I'll be back. Thank you.
Moving into the 1990s, Swansea Mall was staged for success with a full anchor lineup and nearly full occupancy. And in 1991, Equity added the food court and its incredible stained glass skylight, along with 30 additional inline tenants to the mall. With competition so far only coming from the North Dartmouth Mall, Player 3 entered the arena when Pyramid Companies opened their Silver City Galleria on March 1, 1992. While Swansea did receive expansions, bringing it well over 500,000 square feet of leasable space, Silver City Galleria would cast a brazen shadow over Swansea, with over 1 million square feet of space, 2 floors, and 8 anchor spaces. But Swansea would stand firm against this behemoth, only losing a few tenants here and there through the 1990s. By 1994, the Cincinnati-based Federated merged with the R.H. Macy & Co. and combined its Abraham and Straus Jordan Marsh unit with Macy's to create Macy's East. Now, at first, they only dropped the Abraham and Straus name, but Macy's made it blatantly known that their business was all about New York, not Boston. They wanted to consolidate their assets to make their New York roots known, and chose to convert most Jordan Marsh locations to Macy's in spring of 1996, of which the Swansea Mall location was included. Then in 1997, a fire broke out in the Caldor, which forced the store to close for over 1 year. But by September of 97, amidst troubling sales reports and store closures, the New York Stock Exchange straight up delisted Caldor. And by January of 1998, it was reported that the Caldor Company had over $1.2 billion in liabilities, but only $949 million in assets. They were screwed. Caldor's chairman announced that the company's only option was to liquidate and wind down operations, and all Caldor locations were shuttered by May 15, 1999, including the Swansea Mall store that never got to reopen after the fire.
It's the sale you've been waiting for. The going out of business liquidation. Going on now at your local Caldor. Everything is now 20 to 50% off original prices. Every item in every department will be liquidated. No exceptions. 20% off all electronics and kitchen appliances. Housewares and domestics. 20% off all apparel and shoes. Toys and sporting goods. And just listen to this. Take 60% off all fine jewelry. And through Valentine's Day, take an extra 20% off your total jewelry purchase. The going out of business liquidation. Going on now at your local Caldor.
As Swansea timidly dipped its feathers into the new millennium, already scarred with the loss of a senior anchor, it would also lose Apex in January of 2001. By October, Equity had decided to unload the mall and sold it to New York-based Carlyle Development for $42 million. Just months after the mall was sold, the former Caldor space would be filled when Walmart chose to open their very first inline shopping center inside of a mall at Swansea, which opened in late 2001. I just couldn't get enough of this conversation pit. It's so incredible, and the world needs more conversation pits. Important thoughts thrive in conversation pits. World-changing decisions and conversations should be had in conversation pits, especially like this one, emblazoned with neon and with sunlight coming through an opaque stained glass skylight. Do any of you have a favorite conversation pit from a mall? Let me know. I'd love to hear about it. Through the 2000s, Swansea would remain fairly well occupied, with Walmart bringing in a healthy amount of traffic. Despite online retailers now beginning to offer things like CDs, movies, video games, books, and clothing, online shopping really wasn't as widely adopted as it is now. Malls were slightly affected by the internet in the 2000s, but it was the stock market crash and recession in 2008 that would have the biggest effect on malls and the economy in general in the United States. People just didn't have the money to buy extraneous goods, and shop owners weren't selling merch, and therefore mall owners weren't getting rent. The 2010s are when malls really started dying off around the US, as huge balloon payments came due on the massive loans banks were shelling out before the recession. Countless malls around the country would fall into the hands of banks as mortgages were defaulted on, which would introduce a pedigree of shoddy ownership like Mike Cohan and Namdar. However, Swansea still held firm in the hands of Carlyle Development, who themselves took out an over $60 million loan in the mid-2000s for redevelopment efforts, but they employed different developers to manage the mall who saw success in their own malls. First was Priet, handling the leasing and management. Then they fired Priet and hired General Growth Properties, GGP, who also owned the neighboring Silver City Galleria. They fired them. Then they would bring in Jones Lang LaSalle to manage things. They were all over the place, trying new things all the time because they were adamant to make this mall successful. And it was at this point in the footage you're looking at right now that a security guard and somebody else came up to me and said, "Hey, you can't film in here, but I'm sure you already got what you came for because we've been watching you the entire time." 3 days before a mall closes for good, and these people don't want somebody taking pictures of the place to preserve the memory. I don't understand the mindset. I really don't understand the mindset. If this was a mall that was open and thriving, doing great business with a huge future ahead of it, maybe I understand that. But for a place that's closing in 72 hours, for them to break my balls about this, no, I just can't do that. I just don't understand that. So security guards out there, if you're listening, be cool. All right, please. By September of 2013, Walmart had opened a brand new outparcel superstore, which had its own parking lot and a service road now separating it from the Swansea Mall. It was at this time when Carlyle had sold off their 2 outparcel buildings to Gator Investments for an undisclosed amount. Included in the sale was a Toys R Us and a Dollar Tree, which originally opened as a service merchandise. The former Walmart location connected to the mall was demolished, and a mall entrance and facade was installed in its place, leaving Swansea with just Sears and Macy's as their senior anchors, with the former Apex still sitting vacant. By 2014, Carlyle fired Jones Lang LaSalle and decided to handle management and leasing internally and put the mall up for sale. It was announced that New York-based Rockwood Real Estate Advisors had purchased the mall for a meager $6.65 million at auction on November 20, 2014. However, by January of 2015, Carlyle reported that the sale fell through and the mall was still on the market. Then Sears announced a swath of store closures across the country on December 28, 2016, and the Swansea Mall Sears shuttered in March of 2017, leaving Macy's as the sole anchor. By January 9 of 2019, Macy's announced that their store at the Swansea Mall would be closing in just 3 months on March 31. It was at this time that Swansea selectman Christopher Carrero proposed taking the mall from Carlyle through eminent domain, as the city had lost almost $7 million in tax revenue since 2004 when the mall started declining. $7 million in tax revenue, and Carlyle wanted to sell the mall for $6.65 million. Those numbers seem awfully close. So I'm guessing that Carlyle just wanted to pay down their back taxes. Maybe, who knows? But just weeks after Carrero's announcement, Carlyle announced that the mall itself would be shuttering along with the Macy's on March 31. I showed up to the Swansea Mall with Jowdy and my camera 3 days before it closed on March 29 of 2019. The atmosphere was indefatigable, and everyone was so excited to have the chance to walk through the mall one last time. But even with all the excitement surrounding everyone, the scene felt funereal. Families came to this mall for the last 45 years. Multiple generations of children were raised in these concourses, running around from toy store to toy store, getting candy and food and everything else, having the time of their lives. Malls were a place where kids developed core memories that they would take with them for the rest of their lives. And here in the last 3 days of Swansea Mall, the locals came together to hold the Swan's hand in its final moments of life, and it was a beautiful thing to behold. anytime I see a Macy's or a department store and I get to see it as it's closing, they're just selling everything. They're selling the fixtures. They'll sell you a light bulb if you want it. You can buy anything if you walk into this place and offer them some cash. It's the saddest thing to see one of these department stores closing and doing a liquidation. But 3 days after this video, the Macy's would shutter and the mall closed on March 31, 2019. Then about 1 month later in May, Carlisle was able to sell the mall for the previously announced selling price of $6.65 million to Manchester, New Hampshire-based Dick Anagnost. Plans were immediately announced to completely redevelop the mall into a mixed-use facility, and the mall interior saw all combustibles removed to make way for future development. By 2021, a new CubeSmart storage facility was opened at the former mall, and Anagnost announced that they would be spending over $200 million to bring a new apartment complex to this site. But when Walmart first opened their store at the mall, they set a bunch of rules in place, like you couldn't have a billiards hall, you couldn't serve alcohol, you couldn't do this or that. They had all these rules in place, which was agreed upon when they opened their store. And those rules are still in place. So there's a huge legal battle between them and Anagnost on what the guy wants to build there, and they're trying to settle that dispute. And that legal battle is currently preventing any further work being done at the Swansea Mall. So right now, they're at a complete standstill. Construction has stopped and nothing's getting done. But as of January of 2022, the latest news is they're hopeful that an agreement can be reached. If any of you are local to this place, and if you've seen new development, if you've seen any work being done on this place or any new developments, please let me know down in my comment section or reach out to me on my Twitter. Primarily is where I do most of my social media things, but you can also find me on Instagram and Facebook if that's your bag. Check out the links for all my social media in the description, but the easiest way to get a hold of me and have a conversation is to join my Discord server, the home of DMod. It's just discord.gg/DMod. Just head there, make an account, answer a couple of questions from a moderator, and you're in, and we can chat. Anyway, I'd love to hear from all of you, local, not local. Let me know your thoughts down there or my social media. So as we're getting our final view of the Swansea Mall, this is the Apex department store that has been sitting abandoned for the last 21 years. I'd like to just mention that of the 3 malls that were mentioned in this video, Swansea, of course, has closed and it's being redeveloped. The Silver City Galleria closed in 2020 and was demolished in February of 2021. But the North Dartmouth Mall is still standing and it's doing great. I just needed to close that out. I'd like to thank all of you for watching my video on this very, very spooky and scary night. This mall's been through a lot in its life, but fortunately, it wasn't left to rot and fall to vandals like some malls such as Century 3 or the Phillipsburg Mall or Jamestown or Westland. I wish there were more developers out there that would take immediate action, like Dick Anagnost, instead of letting the mall fall apart and return to nature. But we're running out of malls at a pretty alarming pace, and sooner or later we're just going to be left with these super regional malls, and these awesome gray ghosts are going to be gone forever. But I guess that's the duty of people like me and my colleagues to preserve the memory of what once was at these places for the future generations, so the kids know what it was like to go to the mall. Thanks once again to all of my patrons and elite explorers. You're the rock stars, and your direct support and super chats help the ExLog, and every cent goes towards production. If you're still with me at this point of the episode, and you dig what you just saw, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell. I've got a ton more awesome content on the way, so please make sure to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook for updates, or just join my Discord server, home of DMod. Links for everything are in the description section for each of my videos. I'll be back soon with ExLog 112 in the neon-clad Blue Beauty Eastfield Mall in Springfield, Massachusetts. But until then, happy Halloween, everyone. Check your candy, stay safe out there, and have a fantastic day.
So we can join the party right now with our Eyewitness News Entertainment reporter Joyce Cole-Haywick, who is live at the
Who
scene.
am I taking the cue from?
Oh, Joyce, you're taking it from me right now.
I can't hear you very well.
Okay.
It's very staticky. Can't hear a thing.
Good.
Because Boston police are on City Hall Plaza, and they are making an effort to make sure that people... Excuse me, madam.
Cheeseburgers, barbecued beef, chicken pie, crunchy peanut butter, and missiles. That was the wrong film.
Tonight, at this hour, Somerville firefighters near Union Square are battling a 3-alarm blaze.
That was Jonathan Levine. Jonathan Levine live with what could be a new clue in the Joan Webster case.
The search is off, but we'll have more on that later on the Pier 7. They're scouring the scene here at Pier 7, looking for the remains of
Dunkin' Donuts is proud to announce we've created a monster. Introducing a haunting collection of minis for Halloween.
They're alive! Alive!
Minis are a fraction the size of our regular donuts, but they have the power to attract very interesting guests to your Halloween parties.